Thanks so much for everyone being here today. We appreciate it. From the city of Ruston, we say thank you for all of these first responders and all the state agencies that are here today. We appreciate it so very much. I contacted the governor's office at about 5:45 this morning, and at 6:20 I had a call. Governor, we appreciate so very much your quick response and you coming today. And so you don't need to hear me, you need to hear the governor. So at this time, please welcome Governor John Bell Edwards.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. So as obviously most of you know, last night and early this morning we had a very severe series of thunderstorms that moved from west to east across the state of Louisiana. The worst of them were obviously in North Louisiana, but we did have extensive damage in central Louisiana as well. And the epicenter of the disasters here in Lincoln Parish with the most damage, and we have received confirmation, because I know earlier today they were talking about a suspected tornado. It was an EF3 tornado that came through here in Ruston, and potentially stronger, but that's what we know now. We just finished a flyover of the damage. I can tell you from the air, if anything, it is more remarkable than it is from the ground, and the damage is extensive. I was joined by Mayor Ronnie Walker, Sheriff Mike Stone, President Les Geist from Louisiana Tech. And I will tell you, not just those individuals, but everybody on the ground here at the EOC, you have a tremendous team in Lincoln Parish, very professional, very experienced. I do also want to let folks know that we've been contacted by the White House, by the entire congressional delegation, and from our FEMA counterparts as well, all of whom are standing by and ready to help. And I want to thank Congressman Abraham for being here with us today as well. So we've had two parishes declare emergencies, those being Union and Lincoln. The state of Louisiana I just declared a state of emergency for the entire state, because right now we're still assessing damage in multiple parishes, and we don't know where we're going to have to move assets, equipment, and personnel to in order to render assistance just yet. We know of at least 2 fatalities, both of whom were here in the Ruston area, and it's obviously very sad, very tragic. They were a mother and son. The mother is Kendra Butler, 35. The son was Remington Butler, 14, and a high school freshman here. Obviously, that is very tragic, and I would invite everyone to join their prayers to mine for that family and for this community, really for anyone who sustained damage. If you've been out on the streets of Ruston, and I'm sure all of you have, even though that was extremely tragic, obviously the loss of life could have been much more severe than it was. And we haven't completed search and rescue yet. We're obviously hopeful there are no more injuries, there's no more fatalities. We can't say that for certain until search and rescue is complete. The reason it isn't yet complete is because there are places that are inaccessible, both because of all of the debris, but also because of electric lines that are down, and we can't be sure yet, and we're working very hard with folks from the utility services to make sure that those lines are not live, and that we can go in and safely continue the search and rescue. We are here in Ruston in terms of state entities, DOTD, state police, the Louisiana National Guard, Wildlife and Fisheries, and the State Fire Marshal's Office, which in Louisiana, the emergency support function of the Fire Marshal's Office, they are the ones who specialize in search and rescue. They recently brought a team over from Monroe, and they have engaged here. In some places there were initial searches, and now there are going to be some secondary searches to make sure that anyone who needs assistance and is trapped in their homes, may be injured, that we're able to deliver that assistance as soon as possible. The good news for Louisiana is that we have probably the best team in the country when it comes to emergency response. The bad news is we get that way because we have too much experience. But when we need it, we have it. And that's at the state level, that's at the local level, and quite frankly, the relationships we have with our federal partners are probably second to none anywhere. I do want to remind everyone that there is a shelter open, and I believe there are about 14 or 15 people at the shelter now at Glenview Elementary. It may be that this evening that there will be more individuals who make use of the shelter so that they'll have a better place to sleep overnight. I've also been informed that a curfew has been established here from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I do want to encourage people to make sure that you are listening to local officials, and that whatever they advise you to do, that you take it very seriously, and that everyone needs to understand that now is not the time to come to Ruston to sightsee. Because we have a lot of work that's going on out there to clear debris, to do search and rescue, to make sure that overpasses and bridges are safe, and we just don't want you getting in the way, and that's really not being a good neighbor. What we've seen up to now in the Ruston area and really all across the state of Louisiana has been Louisianans stepping up and doing what they do best, and that is being neighbor to one another. And especially the faith-based community has been tremendous. The number of cooking for first responders and who homes have been damaged, it is really inspiring. But part of being a good neighbor is being patient and not visiting this area to sightsee, because it just is, you're going to get in the way. And you're going to create safety problems when if you would just stay away and be patient, that wouldn't happen. So our commitment at the state level does not stop until the response is complete. We don't know yet how long that's going to be, and quite frankly, we can't yet predict all of the assistance that's going to be needed. But I can assure you, everything that we have at our disposal at the state of Louisiana will be made available just as soon as the need arises and the request is made. That's the assurance I've given to the sheriff, to the mayor, and to President Geis. In order to help us better coordinate, because obviously GOSEP is in Baton Rouge, I'm going to leave Chief of Staff Mark Cooper here at the EOC in Lincoln Parish, and he is a former director of GOSEP in Baton Rouge, and so he will be coordinating directly with our folks in Baton Rouge to ensure that every bit of assistance that you need and can benefit from, that you receive just as quickly as possible. So we're going to work with the folks here on the ground, the folks in Union Parish and elsewhere in the state of Louisiana, to make sure that the affected communities can recover just as soon as possible, and that we get folks back into a sense of normalcy. I can't yet tell you, for example, when tech is going to open, but hopefully they will be having classes no later than Monday. We have schools that are closed in Lincoln Parish and elsewhere, and that sort of thing. So we're going to be working with them to make sure that they get what they need to reopen just as soon as possible. You obviously see an awful lot of people behind me. It does take a team to make all of this happen, and it is a great team, and it's one that I'm very, very proud of. And so at this time, we're going to entertain questions, and if you have specific questions, whoever behind me is best suited to give that answer will be the one that comes forward and offers that answer. If you know who it is that you want to direct your question to, feel free to do that as well. But we'll take your questions at this time.
Governor Edwards,
yes, ma'am.
There have been quite a few natural disasters in the state in the past few years.
Yeah.
How does this, what you've seen from the air, stack up to what you have seen in the past several
Yeah,
years?
well, obviously it's some of the worst devastation that we've seen to be concentrated, and tornadoes, unlike floods and hurricanes where everything is widespread, it's really sort of strange, because you see one side of the street seem perfectly normal and everything on the other side of the street, severely damaged. And to see the second floor of the Motel 6, for example, that second floor just seems to be gone. And to know, by the way, that we had individuals who were sleeping in those rooms, but it appears that all of them were not injured. And so it's just a strange situation. I can tell you that a couple of years ago in New Orleans East, we had a very bad tornado, and the damage was similar to what we've seen here today. In that case, we actually had zero loss of life, which was absolutely miraculous. But this is very significant, and just the cleanup is going to take a long time, and we're encouraging people to be patient, because quite often it's after the disaster occurs and the response is underway, that's when people get hurt. People are tired, people are in a hurry, and they don't, sometimes they just make mistakes. And so we're asking not to do that, obviously. But the devastation here is very severe. You know, I'm inspired, I hope you all are, with the way that people are responding, just to be neighbor to one another, and to help get through this. And you know, one of the things that inspires me is how much work's already taken place. There are tarps on roofs already. There are places where the trees have already been removed. I see the folks here at the parish working with the National Guard to clear major debris off of roads. And so that's just something that everybody, I think, can be proud of, is the degree to which folks are working together and very quickly making a positive difference on this response.
Governor, with a very active spring storm season, are we funded adequately to respond to additional disasters like this one around the state?
Yeah, you know, even when we had tremendous budget difficulties in Baton Rouge, we never, ever allowed that to disrupt, interfere with, or minimize the degree to which we responded to disasters, and that won't happen now. We have funds in the SURF, which is an emergency response fund, but beyond that, we're going to do what's required. And the good news is we're actually in session and we're moving budget bills right now, but we had a surplus from last year. We actually have additional funds in the current year as well. And so that's not going to be an issue. What I cannot tell you yet, because we don't know, we haven't done all of the damage assessments. We can't tell you whether the threshold necessary for assistance from the federal government has been met. And I don't want to create expectations that at the end of the day, you know, cause people to believe that assistance is coming from areas where it isn't. And we just won't know that for a while. But I can tell you that there won't be anything shortchanged about the response here in Lincoln or in Union Parish or elsewhere because of anything dealing with finances.
Now, do you expect the White House to respond to your request?
Well, we can't make the request for disaster assistance from the federal government until we do the damage assessment. It's going to be a while before that happens. As soon as we know more, we're gonna let you all know. But we have preliminary damage assessment teams coming in, and I'm looking for Colonel Wascom now. When is that going to happen?
Sir, as soon as Director Franklin from Lincoln Parish gives me the word where we can get to all the homes and the public buildings, our team is ready to come up from Baton Rouge. I'm going to send them up tomorrow. And we've coordinated with FEMA Region 6 out of Denton, Texas, Administrator Tony Robinson, for his team to come down probably Monday. So as soon as we do those, like the governor said, we'll have a better idea of what assistance we may qualify for, and then we'll my staff will prepare the request for the governor's signature.
Guys, what is the extent of the damage and now the cleanup at the university?
Yeah, I'm going to let the president answer that question because he's obviously been there since it happened, and he's flown over it, and he has a really good idea. The good news, there's no good news about this, but the academic side of the institution was relatively unscathed compared to the athletic side of the institution, and that's bad enough, but I'm going to let the president respond further than that.
Yes, thank you, Governor. First, we're really blessed that we don't have any major injuries on our campus, and that's first and foremost of importance to us. We actually have a lot of damage, a lot of debris all across our campus. Some of our big, beautiful trees are all destroyed, and many of them look like they may have pushed into some of our buildings, so we've still got to assess that. We've got some roofing situations where the Wiley Tower, the big 16-floor structure, the tornado came very close to that. It already had a difficult roof on it, and so we've got to go in and inspect some of those things. Residential facilities are damaged with windows and glass blown out, things like that. Athletics facilities are essentially unusable in sports like baseball and softball and soccer, so we have to assess all of that.
You guys have places to put the students that were in some of those dorms?
Yeah, we got all of those students accounted for, and actually we have a little bit of space where we have students that are living off campus that are displaced, and so they can come on our campus, and we're trying to meet with them this afternoon to make sure they're getting those needs addressed.
Will you make provisions for those who live off campus but are students at Tech? I know of one individual who's lost his house but attends Tech. Will you make provisions for them as well?
Yes, absolutely,
Do
absolutely.
you end up getting a count on how many students are going to need a new place to stay?
Not yet. We'll be meeting at 3:30 today and get a better report on that.
Governor, how do you want to distrust the people who are unaffected? How do you think they can help the people who have been affected by this?
Well, they're already doing it in large part, and especially through the faith-based organizations. But you have civic groups here. They're responding in terms of feeding first responders, but also feeding individuals whose homes may have been damaged and so forth. I've been told that some of the areas most heavily impacted was the commercial district, where you have some fast food restaurants, for example, and they are doing similar things. So I would just ask them to pay attention to what the local government says is the needs are, and to see how they can be responsive to that. And it's just one of the things that Louisianans do. It's sort of second nature. And I would encourage all of the students at Tech, if they've got a problem, to make sure that they raise their hand and get the attention of someone who can address their problem. I suspect most of those students, for example, have never had to file a claim with an insurance company because of damage to their cars. Well, I think we got about 50 cars that are going to be damaged, and so I know that one of the things the president's going to do is he's going to bring somebody onto campus, or a team of folks on the campus who can sit there and work with them and tell them how they go about doing that. We're going to make sure that if people need housing, that they get taken care of. But we can't fix a problem that we don't know about, and so we're encouraging people to make sure, and not just on campus, but anyone in the community. If you need assistance, let somebody know. There's plenty of resources here to help. It's not going to be life as normal for a while, but there's plenty of help here available. We just have to know that you need it.
Governor, can you or some professional first responders address the width of the damage, how many miles stayed on the ground, did it hop around, do y'all know that?
Yeah, I'm going to let somebody else address that. We do know it came in from southwest to northeast. It seemed to be fairly narrow, and whether it hopped around, I mean, I can't answer that question. But Ronnie, or you want to do that?
That area that we flew over this morning, for the most part, is, I would say, at least between quarter to a half mile wide in some areas, narrow and whatever. But a lot of the areas were hit harder, as residential areas, and then you had some of the business district that was hit very hard, and then it jumped interstate and went on through the north business district, some of the residential neighborhoods up there as well. As the governor stressed, we're just mainly concerned about the safety of our citizens. We want to make sure that they are safe, so the best advice we can say is stay home if you can. Do not be out on the roads driving through this, because we've got our first responders still out there working. They're currently doing these secondary searches in these residential areas, especially in all the districts, and so we just want to make sure that everybody stays safe, including that for our first responders, because we want to make sure they're all safe as they can be.
Speaking of safety, a lot of the lights were out for most of the morning, and when I was driving in here, do you have an idea when power will be back in the city of Ruston?
Right now, according to the mayor, I'm going to let him address that, because he just mentioned that a while ago.
Okay. We lost about 75% of the power in the city this morning due to the tornado. We think we have about approximately 40% out now. We hope to get that down to about 25% by nightfall. One main part of it was a lot of the downtown, and that was most of the traffic lights. But I want to say the same thing as Kip and the governor has said. Please, please, please stay out of the areas. Every wire that's down could be a hot wire. that will kill you. Stay away from them. And that's the message we really need to get out to our people.
And one last question. Do we know how many homes and how many businesses were damaged by the storm?
We don't have a count at this point. We will have one hopefully within the next 24 to 36 hours.
All right, thank you very much. Nice job. Mr. President?
Hey, you forgot me,
Jim, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. It's all my experience in this, to bring everyone involved, keep it come together, and to get this part done easy, and paperwork, trying to get it right, that's where we'll be available for you and work through that kind of thing.
Will do. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.